Were you protected?
No. Ever.
Paige,
I know.
my
I know.
love, Paige, talk to me, honey.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. We're talking to you guys about Married at First Sight. We're dealing with the fact that, hey, look, you know what, yeah? Paige and Chris, the Pastor Cow talk was a mazzoline. But Paige, why are you still having unprotected sex just because the daddy said he want honeymoon babies?
Honeymoon baby.
Yeah, but I mean,
know.
Does that sound right to you? Sis, does that sound right to you? We'll talk more about this in the episode coming. Guys, if you're new to your channel, like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returning as well, you got the minerals, you got the minerals, you got the minerals. All right, cool. Let's talk about it. So, I want to read a scripture to you guys, two of them, right? Proverbs 11:14 says, "Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in abundance of counselors, there is safety." Proverbs 15 verse 22, "Without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed." I want you to understand that, listen, having wise counsel is so important. There was a moment in the conversation between Pastor Cow and Paige where it suddenly dawned on her what she had gone through. Now, the whole conversation with Pascal, she's deep in it that, oh, okay, look, this, that, right? She knows that she's not done it right. But there's a part there when he asks her about is she still having sex? And you watch her reaction.
did you continue to have sex during this period?
Yeah.
She goes through the motions in her head. You know, she's nodding her head. There's tears in her eye. She rubs her lips together. And then her eyes start blinking really, really fast because she knows at that point, as soon as she heard that question and she's about to answer it, the realization is, I messed up. And I know I shouldn't be having sex with him. And I know I shouldn't keep doing it. I know better than this. There's a realization. And what I'm saying is that good, sound counselors who are your friends, that may be your uncle, your auntie, your family members, who are sound and wise. The Bible says that those who are wise walk with those who are wise. You know what I'm saying? The foolish walk with the foolish. You understand? So, you know, your counselors are as wise. The wise people will hang around with wise people. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to have sound advice and a soundboard that is willingly invested in making sure that you are always taken care of. You are at the pinnacle of their forefront when it comes to them giving advice, meaning that they want the best for you. And so when Pascal's talking to her, you can hear this almost mother-daughter, this father-daughter talk going on, because the way he was like, oh no, my love, when she's like saying about how she's having sex, right? And he's feeling it. Yeah, and I have to shout out Pascal because he really did. He gave some bars today. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just saying that. Listen, this honeymoon baby nonsense is a mazzoline. Let me break it down. What I mean by that. So you know, she was talking that, well, her and Chris obviously have been having unprotected sex. We already know that she doesn't like condoms. Cool, but the fact is, her response to his question. Okay, her response to this question was that she was having unprotected sex due to hearing the dad, talk about honeymoon babies.
I know.
Love, Paige, talk to me, honey. Why?
I know. His dad talking about this honeymoon baby.
Yeah, but I mean...
And my concern was this. If she heard that, and then thought to herself she wanted to do it because she wanted to please her husband, similar to why she even had sex in the first place, okay, then we've got a problem. She's overly compliant to man. And we are supposed to not be, we're not supposed to know no man by the flesh. We are supposed to operate also and test every spirit. So it's like, you're not supposed just to do what man says. God is your God, not man. So if she was so good at hearing and doing for men as she was for God, this situation, when she sees it, she would have avoided a lot of it. Not gone on the show, by the way, but when she got into it, she would have had an idea. Okay, look, God, you said this is meant to be, but I'm looking at it and it's not what it's meant to be. Let me leave. But she can't do that, because part of us, the struggle is that the flesh wars against the spirit. And when the flesh is warring against the spirit, what you've learnt in life, what your experiences are, what you've gone through, what your lens is, begins to battle against what your spirit is saying. For those of you who are Christians, I know you're with me. For those who are not, stick with me. So there's a battle that goes on in your mind versus what your spirit will tell you. So when she's hearing this question about why you having unprotected sex, you can see literally.
Yeah.
And you see the running of motions go through her. She's realizing, she's clocking it, she's understanding. At that point, she realizes, rah, I've done messed up. But can she stop? No, because the programming in the soul, is too strong. The spirit doesn't have enough strength at that moment to override, because we've fed the soul so much. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So a lot of her things also issues what I find is there's an indoctrination by church. And the church has got to take a huge look at itself sometimes, yeah? Because I always say this, the way that we preach about relationships especially is from a traditional cultural perspective, not of God. I believe if Jesus was alive today, he would have spoke to some of these things. Very traditional and cultural over kingdom. We have made husbands to be God in their relationship. A husband is not a covering. Let me say it again for you. A husband is not a covering. Jesus is the covering. When man makes husband covering, we will always have issues. Always. I am not saying that a man doesn't lead his home, but that man must be submitted unto wisdom. And I say wisdom because the Bible describes wisdom in Proverbs, right, as God being wisdom. Right? If we lack wisdom, we should ask for it. So the principle sticks. If a man loves his wife as he loves himself, which is what Ephesians talks about, right, and he has wisdom, he will lead that relationship in the right way. But you are not the covering. That means that person needs to have a relationship with God themselves. That's what I'm trying to say to you, right? But back to Paige's situation is that she has this idea based from church, right? She said, obviously, I had this idea that sex was a duty for a husband.
We ended up doing it.
So you consented?
Yeah.
Why? Tell me why.
I mean, he's just like, you're my wife kind of thing. And it was more like feeling like it's a duty than actually connecting with my partner.
So our sex was a duty rather than connecting with him. You know where that idea comes from? Oftentimes, church. Church will be teaching you, women, you need to be having sex with your husbands. Women, you should be in the kitchen. Women, you should dress like this. Women, did it. And we rarely speak to the men about what they should be doing. We rarely do, because, like, I'm not saying it's all churches, by the way, okay? So if your church is different, fantastic, we applaud you, mate. I'm just saying in general. And so this body of teaching that we've been doing for so long, where it's so similar to what the Jews had as a mindset towards women when it comes to divorce, that they can divorce them for anything, which was one of the debates that we're having, then the same kind of mindset exists of entitlement within the scope of church today. The way that we look at women. Am I saying women shouldn't submit? Of course they should submit. But let's tell the whole story. The women and the men should submit to one another. They submit in different ways. The man submits by loving his wife, because when he loves her, that becomes his weakness, yet his strength. Because in that love for her, he's willing to do whatever she would want him to do for her. And in her respect for him, she's willing to do whatever he asks of her because she respects him. See, if the two marry together, I'm doing whatever you ask and you're doing whatever I ask. Therefore, nobody loses out. The problem is a lot of us are selfish. A lot of us are conceited and prideful. A lot of us are broken in lenses, and we want power. We want control. We're scared to love. We're scared to be hurt. And they play a role in how we deal with one another in relationships, okay? So my biggest thing here is that she had this idea that sex was a duty. Imagine that. You thought sex was a duty for a wife to a husband. Listen, the Bible says your body is his and his body is yours. So guess what? If I don't want to have sex, yeah, although it's your body, just remember your body's mine. So if I don't want it, you can't give it to me. You can't give it to me because your body's mine. And if it's mine, I get to do what I want to do with it. I don't want it. So nobody wins. So it's about mutual submission. God was trying to let you guys see. Some of you have taken scripture to make it about how to abuse the other sex. No. It's about the mutual submission. Am I saying there's no leader again? I want to make it very, very clear for you. No, we want leaders. But what I'm telling you is leadership is not what you thought it was. Leadership is sacrifice. Leadership is taking a lead on things. Yes, keeping your family safe. Yes, it's all about making sure you take decisions. Yes, but it's also about how do you have good counsel. You make sure you listen because somebody might have a great decision. And sometimes it means delegating. Sometimes it means saying, I don't have the answers. Let me pass it on to somebody else. Sometimes it means admitting you don't have the answers at this point, but you're willing to take on other answers to get to where you need to get to. Because at the end of the day, it's about the end goal, not about you. Stay hydrated, right? And then the next thing you hear her say is that I didn't want to upset my husband on the first day of meeting him. Do you know, as a father, if I hear that, that's scary. As somebody who's in relationships, you might miss it and be like, well, you know, that's what it is. No, it's not. That is a poor teaching. That is a poor teaching. Why am I saying it's a poor teaching? Because we've made it so that the woman is looking at the man, okay, and saying, I didn't want to upset him on our first day, but putting yourself at detriment. Now, I'm not saying that's church. I'm saying that often comes from low self-esteem when you don't realize yourself that you are a whole being and therefore you have value. God values you. God is no respecter of persons. You are playing a role in this life. Just because you're a leader or you're the subservient person, you are playing a role in this life. Don't get yourself gassed.
You decided to consummate your marriage and you didn't have an attraction to that person.
Okay.
His argument was he wanted to do it to feel close.
You are playing a role. That's men and women. So you have value in your role. So when you play your role, it's not because you are less than. You're playing a role because you understand it well. And the role is not as rigid as you may think it being. That's another conversation. But what I'm saying is the fact that she said, I didn't want to upset my husband speaks to her mindset of how she views what her role is, right? Look, listen, I'm not saying that we don't do things that can upset our partner. I'm not saying you should do them on purpose either. What I'm saying is that this sex issue thing is meant to be about glorifying God, surely, right? Yeah? Where does God get the glorification when you are doing this as a duty? And what I mean by that is when you are not even really on it. Yeah, and you're just doing it just to be like, oh, I just want to just make him happy, whatever. Now, I'm not saying we don't do things in relationships to make him happy, but sex is one of those things where we class sex as worship, as two becoming one. It is something that is not just solely for pleasure, although you can do. If both are consenting and they want it just for pleasure in the marriage, fantastic, go for it. Enjoy yourselves, go far with it. But when you're not on it, you're not feeling it. This is not the you know what I'm saying? Like, I know it's tough for us man them to deal with sometimes. I know. But, you know, she's not on it. Do you understand? And let me tell you something. Sex is not even enjoyable if you really love the person, sex is not even enjoyable when the person's not enjoying himself. I don't know about you guys, but me, when I'm having sex, I need you to enjoy. I need you to be enjoying. And that includes you climaxing. I'm just going to keep 100% true and real. You know what I'm saying? You already know what it is. So I'm saying, like, I want sex to be enjoyable for you. You know what I'm saying? I want it to be enjoyable for you. If it's not, I got a problem. I feel like I got a problem because it's meant to be a mutual thing. It's not an I thing, right? So the fact that she didn't want to upset her husband, I was a little bit sad by that. I was like, what kind of teachings have you had? What kind of experiences have you had that you're looking at just pleasing your husband to any extent that even you are inconvenienced? That is the people pleaser right there and then.
His argument was he wanted to do it to feel close to me, a closeness to his partner.
That's BS. I'm sorry, I just can't.
And so when she said, obviously, you know, that Chris gave her an excuse that he said he wanted sex because he wanted to feel close to her, and Pascal called it bullcrap. I said, thank God somebody's on point. Stay hydrated. Thank the heavens somebody else sees that this is nonsense. He did not do it to feel close to you, Paige. He did not. Did you feel close to him after? Did you feel closer to him after? Really? You felt disconnected. You still felt disconnected, but you did it because you wanted to please him. And he used that against you, almost like how sin uses the law against human beings. Oh, Lord, that is a revelation. Ooh. The same way Chris used her commitment to her ideology around marriage and doing her duty as a wife is the same way sin used the law against us. The law is perfect, okay, to the spiritual man, but because we weren't spiritual, sin took occasion and used it against us. It could not do what our flesh, so the law couldn't do what it needed to do in our flesh. Therefore Christ had to come, okay, in the flesh, similar to us, okay, die on the cross, pay the debt of sin, so that we could be freed from the law of sin and death. Okay, right, this is Romans 6 and 7. Go read it. You trust me, it'll get deep for you, right? He had to free us from that. Okay, and so sin took an opportunity of seeing the law, how it worked against us because of our flesh, and took opportunity for it. That's what Chris has done. He's used her commitment to the commitment. Okay, he's taken her committed stance to the commitment and used it against her.
Probably should have recognized then some of the red flags, but I was like, I was committed to this process.
And so you see these tears in her eyes. She's breaking down as she's explaining the fact that 6 weeks pregnant, and you can see a little bit of steel come in at this moment where she goes, and 6 weeks pregnant. And I was like, oh, the energy is real right now. The vim was different, right? But then as she explains the story that Chris gave to her, you're going to watch her soften. We're going to watch her soften her voice, explaining how Chris, slept with a girl that was his ex or whatever on a funeral time or whatever, which again I think is still mad, to be honest. Just saying, when someone's lost their father, this is not the time to be having sex. And listen, I've heard a story similar like this, and the person was not, it was consensual, but they would have wished that the person would have respected them in that moment. You feel what I'm saying? So it's the consensual part's not the issue. It's the fact is, am I taking care of you? Am I having your best interest at heart? And now she's pregnant? Stay hydrated. So from Geezy. And just to touch on the honeymoon phase part, honeymoon baby part as well. Remember, he's obviously said he wants a honeymoon baby. He wants to be able to, have a child with her. And what concerned me is that fact that he mentioned that joke or that thing on the dinner table some weeks back where he was talking about would you be open to obviously being a stepmom. Then he also spoke about obviously him and her and them having kids. And then the fact of the matter is, the term that she's obviously the fact that they were the father-in-law was speaking about having honeymoon baby. This means that this girl was open to having kids. I want you to understand how God has been faithful, how God has saved her. And when I say God has saved her, listen, some people don't get this grace. It's called grace for a reason. Unmerited favor, meaning that you didn't earn it. You couldn't say it's yours. Okay, it's unmerited favor. She received unmerited favor from the Lord, because in this instance, okay, it sounds like she was trying to have a kid. Because that reasoning of why you're having unprotected sex about the honeymoon baby situation means that you were looking to have this child because you wanted to have children too. So is there a part of Paige 2 that was consenting to this behavior of sex because she wanted a baby? And now, listen, just because I'm saying that because later on when he's saying, I don't want to be disrespectful about, I'm not going to tell you about the sex issue, was there a part? Was there a conversation? Was there maybe a mention of the fact of her wanting a child so bad that maybe in part of her mind, of her thinking of continuing to have sex was to give him a child? You know what I'm saying? Like, was that in her mind? It's a question. It's not really an answer to say, right? And I believe that, just like when it says that, God had to open the woman's womb or whatever for a child to come. Maybe in this case, God just didn't allow the womb to open, because had he done, you'd have been stuck in a situation you couldn't get out of. And what a deadly situation would have been. What a deadly situation it would have been. Do you know what I'm saying? What a deadly situation it would have been. So for me, I can't believe that she wanted to consider that, but I can see maybe this happening. I can see this maybe happening. And this is why we say personal accountability is so important, because as much as obviously you are a victim to the circumstances or this guy, the heavy indoctrination in terms of you being committed to the commitment is causing issues, right? So guys, I'm gonna leave it there. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. We'll do a part 2 for this on another time. Do you know what I'm saying? So shout out Pastor Chris for calling out ball as well, man. It's a Mazzoline, baby. Mazzoline.